African governments are struggling to respond to domestic socio-economic pressures due to crippling debt. African Forum Network on Debt and Development Executive Director Jason Baraganza says the cost of debt servicing and restrictive terms of loans are severely limiting government spending in critical areas such as healthcare and education.
Africa's external debt has risen from 19% of the gross domestic product in 2010 to about 29% in 2022. Of this, private creditors lead at 44% as of 2021, while the share of bilateral and multilateral creditors has declined from 33% to 14% and 24% respectively. According to civil society groups, private credit comes with more restrictive terms and a reduced policy space for African governments. This situation has sparked calls for a complete overhaul of the global financial architecture.
Why aren't we generating revenue? Why aren't we creating enough money from the debt that we're taking on? What is it that's preventing us when we borrow to build roads or to build railway lines or to build airports or to build hospitals and schools? Why aren't we generating those revenues? What is the system and the architecture that is preventing us from doing that?
I think we are still entrapped in colonial debt and the unjust debts that most African countries inherited. And we still use the same model.
The need to maintain creditworthiness through favorable credit ratings has forced African governments to prioritize debt servicing. At least 27 African countries are now spending more on debt repayment than on critical investments in health, education, and water and sanitation.
But the state has a role to raise maximum available resources to meet the development needs, to protect human rights of its citizens, and to address gender inequalities and other inequalities.
They were speaking at the 4th African Conference on Debt and Development in Maputo, Mozambique, that highlighted the need to focus on sustainable and inclusive development. As of 2024, 4 African countries have paid a single default or have defaulted on their loan repayment. This just tells you the rising public debt and the weak revenue collection is threatening fiscal stability of African governments. Hence, they called for a new economic order. Reporting from Maputo in Mozambique.